In a lot of organizations, people wouldn't be comfortable with that, but you need your people to be your happiest and their most productive. And if they are struggling with mental health issues, you're not going to get that. You're going to get sloppy performances. You're going to get disengaged employees.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Organizational Behavior with Siphiwe Moyo. As you know, we always bring you the best guests in the house, and today is no exception at all. Aside from having a love affair with slots, Yael Geffen is the CEO and shareholder of Geffen Sotheby's International Realty. She's a sought-after keynote speaker, a TEDx speaker, a staunch mental health advocate, and an innovative business leader. She has won numerous awards over the years, including the Standard Bank's 2020 Top Women in Property Award, Top 30 finalist in 2021 for the Strategic African Women in Leadership Trailblazer Awards, and winner of the CEO of the Year category in the Women of Stature 2023 Award. She grew up in a real estate dynasty established by her grandmother Ada, and prior to joining her father Lou and mother Sandy in the family property business, she acquired extensive marketing, brand building, and business development expertise in the USA. So it is an absolute honor to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. I just want to just correct, it's Geffen Sotheby's International Realty, but a lot of people get it wrong, so don't feel bad.
I knew I was going to mess that up, so I'm not going to feel bad at all, but I'll get it right.
No, don't feel bad. It's quite a mouthful. It
is. We're going to do what we call a fire episode. I'm going to throw things at you. Feel free to give us some insights. But before we do that, I guess we have to just maybe share a little bit of your journey from working in the US to leading this powerful international realty organization in South Africa. What has been your journey?
Sure. So because I grew up in this dynasty, family dynasty of real estate, I didn't really know my place in the world other than who my grandmother was, who my father was. All of them had signboards on pavements. So my friends would joke that, I could find them if I just followed the signs on the pavements. That didn't work. But I just wanted to find out who I was, separate from this family dynamic. So when I was 22, I just buggered off overseas, and I wanted to experience life and actually be anonymous and figure out who Yael was. So I did every kind of odd job, from packing shoes in Queens in a factory, which was a fantastic job. Manual labor is fantastic. You get your cash at the end of the day. You don't think any more about the company, and you just come to work and you serve your hours. And I did some promoting of a film festival, the Greenwich Film Festival. And then I was a receptionist for an animation studio in New York called Noodle Soup Productions. And then slowly but surely, they realized that I was quite good at sales. So I got promoted to business development. And then I was selling the animation of the studio to advertising agencies on Madison Avenue. So it was really cool for a South African to do all this. On the side, I belly danced as well, because that was my hobby. So I'd belly dance in the evenings and perform. And then I last landed up at a production company, a film production company called EUE Screen Gems. And I was a commercial agent, would you say, for two commercial directors. So I was responsible for getting them work at also all the agencies shooting commercials. And then I actually got let go, along with most Americans, because it was the crash of 2008. At that point, I was living in LA, and I was working at an advertising studio as a strategic planner. And I was told that me and 14 other people were let go that day, because people had to get rid of people quickly. It was the whole crash. And I was very lucky. I got 2 weeks notice. In America, there's no CCMA. It's
Absolutely.
Today will be your last day. Enjoy, And then I decided to come visit my family during the break. And I went through a terrible breakup at that same time as well with my American boyfriend. So I decided to come home for a bit. And then lo and behold, I landed up staying and then met my ex-husband and had our child. And then I started in the family business, and that was in 2009. So I've been in the business since 2009, and in 2017, I became the CEO of the business. It's a nationwide real estate franchise network, and we have 500 agents over South Africa. And we also have about 40 licensees. So it's a lot of work, and that's why I look tired.
It's a lot of work. It's interesting that you started in the property business in 2009, post the financial crisis, and I think we could speak so much about that. I was in the banking world at that time, so that's not the world that was very exciting at that time. So eventually, you
Exactly.
make it back into the family business. I'm interested, though, as the youngest and only female CEO amongst the top real estate brands. What challenges have you then faced, and how have you overcome them?
So initially, I felt quite insecure about it. And I had quite a crisis of confidence. And I turned to filter. So I started wearing ties and bow ties, which looked really
Mm,
stupid. About after the fifth time, I looked at myself in the mirror and thought, what a schmuck. Like, stop, really, stop. So I decided, you know what, I actually deserve to be here, even though I'm having this crisis of confidence, which has a nice acronym, COC. I'm not going to pronounce it in case any of your listeners or viewers get upset, but it's a very helpful way to remember what a crisis of confidence is.
mm,
I decided to lean in to foundations and not filters. And think to myself, I deserve to be here. I deserve to have a seat at the table. Yes, I am a woman. It used to be women back in the day in real estate, Aida, my granny, and Pam Golding,
actually.
but it has taken a very male leadership slant, and that's my role to empower other women to take those positions, those senior
Mm,
positions at real estate companies, and really empower them. But yeah, so I started building my network, focusing on my skills, harnessing knowledge, observing, listening, and then eventually the rest was history. I've had quite a successful time. Took over in a technical recession, which is always fun. And also being the chairman's daughter, there's that nepotistic angle. So people
mhm.
think, do you deserve to be here? So that was the extra pressure. But if I look back, it's been quite a journey, and I think I've done quite well, to be honest. I'm going to pat myself on the back.
I love that. I love that very, very much. And how do you then make the I don't know if it's the transition. It's actually not a transition. How do you get to then be known as an advocate for mental health? How has your personal journey influenced that?
So I've had my own mental health struggles, and our family actually lost my brother to suicide in 2009, which is very traumatic. And we dealt with his mental health journey.
Sure.
And when I was living in America, I discovered that I had some mental health issues that were induced by trauma, childhood trauma that I'd blocked out for 15 years. It was sexual abuse by an uncle. And all of a sudden, I was catapulted into serious depression and
Sure.
even feeling like I want out at times. And then it became a whole journey for myself with medicine and therapy. And, it's been a journey, like I say. And I do believe that this is now the new pandemic, with Liam from One Direction recently, losing his life, and he had mental health struggles, and what's happening to our children suicide is the number one reason for death in adolescence in South Africa. It's not even car crashes anymore. So we're in crisis. And the reality is, from my experience, I decided to kind of come out and talk about it. And I was very scared. I thought the world would turn its back on me. And instead, it embraced me with open arms. And only once I started talking about it in press and in public and in talks did people come forward that were also leaders and people that I aspire to, that they have their own journey.
Sure.
So it seems everyone is touched by suicide or someone with mental health issues, but we don't talk about it. It's still very stigmatized. So my passion is to really get people to talk about it more so that our children talk about it as well, so that people don't feel alone, because this is the loneliest time in history that we're living in.
It must have taken a lot of guts, particularly as a CEO, to be able to speak about that, because I think, as you say, mental health is frowned upon, number one, but it's also the entire thing around well-being, even though many people are speaking about well-being, but it is almost like an HR thing and so on. Did you find that speaking about that within the organization itself, did it make a difference on the conversation of people reporting to you, for example?
Absolutely. I've had instances where staff members have taken mental health breaks that are struggling. I think in a lot of organizations, people wouldn't be comfortable with that, but you need your people to be your happiest and their most productive. And if they are struggling with mental health issues, you're not going to get that. You're going to get sloppy performances. You're going to get disengaged employees. So I think also by being a leader that's pro, talking about mental health, dealing with mental health initiatives, it comes from the top. So I think, Siphiwe, what we're seeing right now is you see organizations kind of like just saying, okay, we need to just do a thing for Mental Health Month, and then we're done, or we need like an HR person just to deal with mental health issues, like just as a tick the box. But that's not going to do it. It's a company culture where they feel that the leader cares about their mental health. And then you've got the opposite, where people are taking advantage and abusing this term mental health. So you have people saying, I'm having a mental health day. Sorry, there's a bug flying
We are
flying around.
human.
He's having his own mental health issues. So I just think people are abusing it at the same time. So there's a fine line between what's actually real and the journey of it, and a fine line between it becoming a buzzword and people taking advantage of that word because organizations are scared to deny someone of good mental health. So it's an interesting time, but COVID really had a terrible impact on people's mental health. We went from being scared of each other and afraid to all of a sudden being normal, and there wasn't a transition. And if you look at kids, actually, that's why I think they're more in crisis than ever. I had a grade 1 during COVID, and it was his first formative year at school, and he was wearing a mask.
Sure.
And I was homeschooling him, and he'd never been on a computer, a grade 1. And all of a sudden, I'm mommying and schooling and also being a CEO. And it was such a hectic time. And then all of a sudden, these children are allowed to play with each other. So I think we're still reeling with the effects of COVID. And only in time will we know the real impact that it's had on our mental health. But I think people underestimate how COVID has changed the world with mental health and the impact that COVID had on our mental health.
What then brings you into the corporate stages? You run a successful business which takes a lot of your time. What's driving you also going on stages in other and offering some speaking and public speaking services?
Well, Siphiwe, I feel like I had a story to tell. I just didn't know how to tell it and where to tell it. And I think in terms of resilience in my life, there's been a lot of loss along the way and crises and just getting through that, but from an authentic kind of confidence way versus being prescriptive and saying, this is how you do it. Yes, just sharing my journey. and talking about a few things that I've engaged with, like the crisis of confidence, being the only woman in a male-dominated workplace, how to self-promote without making yourself and others cringe, just issues that I'm passionate about that I realized actually needed a platform. I was told by many people, hey, you should take your story to stages. And then I decided to do that, and I fell in love with how inspired I felt, and also touching people and leaving an impact. And I think it's a really cool way for leaders these days to engage even more with their consumers, with their stakeholders, with people that work for them by being on stages and talking. We're in the era of social media revolution where people are talking. I mean, you see Richard Branson jumping in a pool, or getting pranked on, or people want to see the real people behind the success stories. And I think when you get up on a stage and tell your story, it not only promotes yourself as a business leader, but it promotes the company. And I've often gotten many leads after a talk for property because people like people who they trust. They want to do business with people they like and they trust. And if you can be on a stage and impact someone's life, they're going to want to do business with you afterwards as well. So that's a two-prong effect. It's not the reason why I do it. I lead from servant leadership. I don't believe in this hierarchy of top down, and that's just my leadership style. So it's a way of also me giving back.
Sounds good. I think let's zone into a bit of chat around resilience, and then maybe a little bit about property, and then I will let you go. What strategies would you recommend?
Please, not like 2008, eh? That was traumatic enough.
I
Don't let
know.
me go like 2008.
No, it will never go there. It will never get to that. What are some of the strategies do you often recommend to building resilience? I think in both personal and professional context. And what's your definition of resiliency?
So I think people used to see resilience like the tiger. In order to be resilient, you've got to be like a tiger, kind of aggressive and confrontational and rise to the top. But I see it as being like a fungi. And I know that sounds really strange, but fungi are the most resilient creatures that the world has ever seen. They build a network under the ground, and they make the internet look like child's play. And they're responsible for the air we breathe, and they're responsible for death, decay, rebirth. I mean, they even create zombie ants, food, antibiotics, and I think we underestimate resilience, that actually it's not singular, it's cellular. And we focus on it being so singular, and what I try and do is get people to reimagine resilience, to see it from a different point of view, that it's not singular, that it's cellular, that it's about building resources, that we're living in a very isolated time, and turning to each other and asking for help. It's in Winnie the Pooh, I think it's Piglet and Pooh that are walking down the street or the road, and Piglet says to Winnie the Pooh, "What's the bravest word you've ever said?" And Winnie the Pooh says, "Help." And I think that's a huge part of resilience, is asking for help and relying on people, building alliances, and learning how to blossom in the dark. I think when we experience discomfort, human beings want to run away from it. We don't want to sit within it. We don't want to face it. And it's about sitting in it and accepting it, and then giving it the space to move forward. So that's what I've learned about resilience. I've looked at some examples in my life and tried to come up with ways in which I move forward. I don't think it's formulaic, but I think there are tools and tips.
Do you ask for help from the people in your team?
Oh my gosh. Now all the time. I used to be a solo act, and then I realized it was very overrated. And then when I started asking for help, I realized how much better the team gets, the loyalty, the accountability they feel. I'm the first to take the bad rap when something goes pear-shaped or wrong. And that creates so much loyalty because I'm the one that stands in front of them that says, I dropped the ball, even though it was a team member. So that creates a lot of loyalty. And we've all learned how to lean on each other because you are going to have your bad days. You are going to have your crises. You are going to have your traumas. You are going to have things happening with the family. We're human. And if we can lean on each other, that would be great. I also have an SOS group for my mental health, which involves a doctor, a psychiatrist, very good friends of mine. And when I'm struggling, I go to this group and I say SOS, and a best friend will drop everything and call me immediately. And there's nothing shameful about that. It's actually, one should be very proud of creating an SOS group because you are only as good as the people around you. And if you build yourself up with the people around you, you're the best version of yourself.
Did it initially make you lose leadership credibility? Did you ever feel that people are taking advantage of this newfound "I ask for help" leader?
It's an interesting question, and I'll give you the answer. I think initially, perhaps there were a few naysayers like, I don't think this is a traditional leadership style because it's very different. But then I think the proof is in the pudding. So it's about results as a leader, meeting your key performance KPIs, it's about the results. So if you're able to be yourself and get outstanding results, then clearly you're a good leader. And also it allows others to be comfortable with themselves and their own weaknesses and feeling disempowered. And, a good leader inspires people. A bad leader makes people fear them. And there's so much fear-led leadership, but that is not true leadership. I would rather have my colleagues, franchisees, agents, staff respect me than fear me.
Incredible. Many leaders, though, words like psychological safety sound a little bit weak. When I mention that word, what comes to mind for you?
I think it's an amazing word. Because if you can create psychological safety, not only with your staff, you can create it with your clients. We're in the business of property, and you want to create that psychological safety from the word go. Having a home, a roof over your head, shelter is Maslow's hierarchy of needs right there. So property is seen as a safe haven for a lot of people, most people. I mean, we're looking at the rain now. People in townships don't have roofs over their heads. They have shacks. They flooded with rain. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So psychological safety is very underrated. And I think the world is now in a very transparent place. There's almost like a transparency revolution where people are sick and tired of the false and the fake, and they just want real and genuine and authenticity, even though the word authentic has been beaten to death. But psychological safety is key. I think the best organizations are built around that, and cultural beliefs, a culture that ties into that. Because again, you don't want to be following a fear-based leadership. It doesn't create loyalty, and people are talking about you behind your back, and there's huge staff turnover. You want people who are loyal and love working with you.
Have you found that you lead your licensees different than the people who are your agents directly?
So I regard everyone as my babies, even though I'm young, younger than most. Our direct clients are franchisees because we're a franchising network. So we sell licenses to our franchisees, and then they have the agents beneath them. But we're always thinking about the agents because a franchise is only as successful as its agents. So if the agents are happy, the franchisees are happy, and then we're happy. So it's a two-pronged approach. It's not just that someone takes priority, but our main source of communication is through our principals, and then our principals communicate with our agents. However, we do do often communicate with our agents by celebrating them. We have a lot of award shows where they get recognition, and we talk about their achievements. We've got our national convention coming up, which is very exciting. It's for the top agents in our country, and we celebrate them and award them and dance with them and play with them and have a good time. So both are important. Both are important because without the agents, we won't have successful franchisees. And without a successful franchisee, you won't have the best agents.
Incredible. I think maybe last question from my side. I think if there's one thing that I'm picking up from your conversation is that as someone who still has P&L responsibilities but who is an advocate for mental health, there's a bit of a dance that you're always trying to make sure you balance. And there are so many leaders who I think a message of mental health lands a little bit better when they see that someone who still has a P&L responsibility, and they do say, you have to balance the two. So if you imagine your peers, CEOs listening, and you have a minute to just maybe, invoke a bit of curiosity in this dance, what would you say to them as a parting shot?
I think in order to be a good leader, you have to build credibility. And if you don't have credibility, you can't be as vulnerable, as honest as you want to be, because people will want to take shots at you. And it's the people that are around when you succeed and applause for you that are really in your network, that are really your friends. There's a lot of people that have schadenfreude when you fail, but I think if you're likable, people tend to want you to succeed more. They don't like people who self-inflate. Self-inflation we hate. Self-promotion is great. There's nothing wrong with promoting yourself, being vulnerable, being transparent, but you've also got to establish credibility. And how I've been able to do that is I've won a lot of awards. So there's nothing wrong with entering award shows for your business, for you as a person, for you as a leader, because it establishes that gravitas, that credibility. Getting on stages establishes that credibility for me. So if you can balance the two of being transparent and open and genuine, but being credible and having delivered the results, I think you're able to do that quite well. And mental health is somewhere in between. Not everyone is going to be comfortable enough to come out and speak about their mental health, but they can take it seriously in the workplace. A lot of people are coming forward and talking about mental health, and I think it's very brave for leaders to do that, because we judge very harshly. Anyone in a position of power is judged very harshly. But I think, the people that don't like you, they practice schadenfreude, but the people that like you, even if you fail, they want to see you succeed. So put your hand up for everything and say yes. I say yes until you can afford to say no. Apply yourself, enter competitions, put your business forward for competitions, put yourself out there, put your business out there. There's nothing wrong with self-promoting yourself as long as it feels authentic. But don't feel like you don't deserve to be there, and don't feel like an imposter. And everyone has a crisis of confidence. Everyone, from Reese Witherspoon, who I just met at our international conference of Sotheby's International Realty. She talks about having a crisis of confidence when she was filming Walk the Line, and she was playing, is it June Carter? And she actually tried to get out of her contract because she didn't feel that she was confident enough in the role to emulate June Carter. And due to legal reasons, she couldn't get out the role. So she had to suck it up. And she got a dialect coach, she got a dancing coach, she got a singing coach. And lo and behold, she walked away with the Oscar. So I think crises of confidence happen from time to time. And we've got to turn away from fake and filters and putting a show, to actually reaching to our foundations, to building a credible network, to networking, to developing resources, because we are not alone, and resource yourself. And then I think you've got a very good chance of getting the balance right. Something's always got to give. But I think for the most part, if you can be credible and be brave and transparent at the same time, I think you have a winning formula.
Do you realize how energized you are now? Is it this conversation?
I know, I can go. This is why I want to talk on the stage, because I get so empowered.
It's amazing to see.
Started off so exhausted, but when you've got a story to tell, it energizes you. So thank you for giving me the moment. Now I can go.
It's amazing to see, but I'm going to let you go anyway. If anyone wants to maybe tap into that for their next conference or just to follow your work and a little bit more of your work, what's the best way to connect with you?
I think LinkedIn is such a great networking tool. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, Yael Geffen, Yael. Sorry, my dog's walking around. I don't know if you can hear the pitter patter.
No, we don't.
Yael and then Geffen, Geff for Freddie, En for Nancy. I also have a website, yaelgeffen.com, and you can reach out to me, yael@yaelgeffen.com. But LinkedIn is probably the easiest. So send me a message and I will respond, unless you're trying to sell me something without knowing me. That is the most annoying thing ever. Get to know me first and what I need before you try and sell me something. And then stop trying to harass me weekly. That's the worst thing for a salesperson. Do not harass people. Get them to like you and build a relationship. It's so easy. I don't know why they don't learn this in sales.
But that's incredible to hear from someone who runs that kind of a business of sales-driven business that build a relationship with me, get to know me, for goodness sake.
Create value for them. How can I help you? Not, this is me, this is what I do. Maybe there's a connection. Maybe there's no, this is my favorite, Siphiwe. Maybe there's some alignment with our businesses. It's so bad, all this jargon. Just say, hi, Yael, I'd love to connect with you. Do some research. I see you're a woman in property. I've been following your website. This is, I do X. Would you ever be keen to talk about it, or are you fine? Should I follow up maybe in a few months, or you're welcome to tell me to go take a hike? I promise you, if you come from that angle, the person will want to meet with you.
Absolutely.
They'll think, geez, this person actually cares about me, has an interest in me, has tried to actually understand me, is providing value. And I'd like to connect with this person versus push. The best form of marketing is pull strategy. You want to pull people towards you. You don't want to Amway them and push people away. And those are the best salespeople on earth that build relationships first. Because if you can build a relationship with someone and it's a beautiful, credible relationship where they trust you, they will most likely buy into what you do and the why of what you do.
That's very true. Yael, thank you so much for coming. We're going to drop all the links. We're going to put all the links into our session notes, particularly LinkedIn, but website as well. Thank you so much for coming. We really, really appreciate it. It was incredible.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for energizing me. Now I can go fetch my son, cricket, storm. I'm ready for it.
You are welcome. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was another episode of Organizational Behavior with Siphiwe Moyo, a very energizing podcast. Bye, Yael.
Bye.